I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions. We all go through so many transitions in our life. I like to use the metaphor of triathlons. So that's something that I've been doing for 13 years. And to give you an idea, in a triathlon, first you swim, and then you get in the transition area, and then you bicycle. And then you get in the transition area and then you run. And there's so many aspects of that. It's a metaphor for what we do in our life. And if you're wondering what's happening with my nose, that's another transition. I had a little doulas that had to be taken off, so the show must go on. So enough of that. Now, transitions, body, mind, spirit. I was talking about swimming, and we have some swimming experts, but it's not just swimming. It's teaching children, infants, to save their lives. And there's a big difference. And I want to introduce Brendan Sweetman and his wonderful, wonderful mother from New Zealand. And Mrs. Sweetman. Carolyn.
Yeah.
Yes, Carolyn. Well, welcome, both of you. Welcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Brendan, can you kind of tell us what you do with children? And then we're going to have your mom talk about how she started this in the pool, teaching children how to save their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's something that is difficult to say succinctly because there's so many layers to this teaching. But tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it is quite diverse, and there's a lot of different levels to it. But basically, we work with our most prized possessions, which are children. And we work with them in such a way that we teach them how to not only save their life in the water, as the show is called Transitions,
Mm-hmm.
many transitions after that in its briefest form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you give me an example? Let's say I'm a mother and I'm going to bring my 2-year-old. Will you take a 2-year-old to your pool?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what is the 2-year-old supposed to learn?
Since every child is individual, what they learn is individual as well. Mm-hmm. That one child may move forward very quickly, where another child may stay behind because they may be working on another part of transitioning into the swimmer that we believe they can be. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want them to learn to swim, but you also said you want them to learn, like if a 2-year-old falls in the neighbor's pool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are they supposed to do other than drown? What is the ideal thing you teach them to do?
Well, within our hands, we teach them to be malleable, to be open, to be present with this medium which we call the water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the water can be fun and can be welcoming, and you're dispelling fears, right?
In relation to fear, if I can speak about that for a second.
Yes.
So in relation to fear, fear is necessarily not what it looks like or what we seem to visually and emotionally see it as. A lot of times children may not want to do something at home, like eat their pancakes or eat their broccoli, which I've had parents tell me that their child actually screams every time he has to eat pancakes. Huh. And I say to them, does that mean your child is scared of pancakes? So we change perspectives and we help children and families, parents, to see that what your child may be presenting in the water is actually just maybe them not wanting to do it, unwillingness, stubbornness. Very few children, too. My mother and I were eating dinner, say, 7 or 8 months ago, and we talked about percentages. So 2 in every 10 kids is going to be a natural swimmer. When you see children on a swim team, they're of the upper echelon of swimmers. Fact being, most children take quite a while to get the concept of not only saving their life, but actually swimming well. Because in some ways it's not natural to them. But most children are not afraid of the water. They may be stubborn over the water, but they are not afraid of the water. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, Carolyn, as far as your technique, you started teaching swimming with your own children.
Peter first. And when Peter was 5, Brendan was born. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to teach this child. And so,
Crazy man.
so I taught him. And here's a good lesson for parents. Gareth, my 3rd son, was born 14 months later.
Wow.
And so now I've got these, Peter could swim. I've got these babies that I have to work with. And we used to go to the pool almost every day.
This was at Vanderbilt University?
No, at that time, actually, we were members of the Jewish Community Center because Peter went there for kindergarten.
Okay.
And it was suggested by our pediatrician. And we went to we'd go to the pool, and I'd sit Brendan up over here and the baby up over here. And I'd say, now you have to wait for Mama to come get you. And I would work with Peter first, then I'd go to Brendan. And see, when moms tell me, but I've got 3 kids and I just can't take them to the pool. See, that was my point. And I did that until they were able to, when they were about, a little bit less than 2, they were swimming.
They were less than 2 and they were swimming.
Yes, and they were my own children, but they just did what I thought. My hardest one, my most difficult child was Peter, because he just didn't want to be in the water at all. These other 2, they just took off.
They were the naturals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He takes after my late husband, Peter.
Ah.
Yeah, he didn't like the water much either.
Yes.
But anyway, we used to go to Vanderbilt in the afternoon after we left the Jewish Community Center, and swim every afternoon. And
With the kids.
oh yes,
3 kids and you.
yeah, but they were swimming. By that time they were all swimming, and then I used to promise them Baskin Robbins. There used to be a Baskin Robbins
ice cream.
Yeah, and so they would just do what I wanted them to do. You know, that's where I learned about the treats. And then came the day that I was just sitting around watching the kids swim. I had already been in, and the head coach of Vanderbilt came to me and said, I would like to speak to you. Would you please come to my office? And I thought, oh, what have I done? And then that's when he asked me if I would come and join the staff and teach.
Wow, the staff at Vanderbilt, and your husband already was a professor there, right?
Yeah. And so I said, well, I can't do that because I've got 3 little kids, you know. And he said, don't worry about that. Bring them. Do you remember that?
Bring them?
Yeah, bring them to, yes.
The lessons?
Yeah, and if they would like to play in the basketball, what is it? I can't think of the word. But
Gymnasium.
Yeah, if they wanted to do that, they could. They could do anything that they wanted to because he said, you've got good kids.
Aha, you have good kids.
Yeah, they were very good kids. And so I taught at Vanderbilt and and I finally decided that I'd start teaching myself at my home. But I waited for a while because I had a lot of private lessons. I used to drive all over this town to do private lessons at homes.
And people who had their own pool,
Yeah.
who wanted their children
And
to
I gave
learn.
them the directions. I said, I want that pool heated to 90 degrees.
Ah.
I want you to stay out of the way, go in the house and stay away. I mean, that was strict. That was
So
really strict.
rules. You didn't want the parents there.
No, because children do so much better without their moms and dads. Once they get happy and they're loving it, mom and dad can watch. That's what you do too, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
All
and
right.
and the program is based on lots of hugs, lots of kisses. In other words, lots of love. And I think that's one of the biggest secrets we have. You gotta hug and kiss on those kids and let them know you care about them. And you know, when they get to about 2.5, I have this mantra I say, I want you to repeat after me. I can do it. I will do it. And I shall do it. I can do anything I set my mind to.
Wow.
And then, you know, to have them understand what I'm talking about, because I always try and speak down to them. I tell them that if mommy wants you to do a job and you don't feel like doing it, just remember what I said. And then I say, what did I say? What did I say? And they repeat it. And we go over it and over it. The other thing is, one of the big things is that I think works for us is we teach children that the water is their friend and that the water will hold them up. I even say this to adults when I have adult students. That, you know, and I give them this example of hold my arm out still and quiet, and then I put it down in the water, and then I bring it back up, and then I'll say, now you watch this. When I put my arm down and relax, what happens? It comes up by itself.
Right.
And the children go, oh, yes, so they all do it. And see, that's another way to get in. And
Demonstration.
Yes. And then I also tell them that they must be still and quiet, because when they're still and quiet in the water, it really helps the water to hold them up, hold you up. Yeah.
It helps.
So once they understand that they can float and be still and quiet like that, and they stay up, no moving arms, no moving legs. We don't do any of that stuff. And then when they can do what we call a sleeping fish, which is a float.
On their back.
No, we're
No?
still on the tummy. We're still on the tummy.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we start rolling them over. Because see, I want them to be as comfortable as possible. Now, not everybody is comfortable when we start the back work. And usually we start on the first day, on the first hour. Yep. And, you know, somebody will be crying. I don't care. Somebody might be burping up air, you know. I don't care. We just go on, you know, and hugs and kisses.
Hugs and kisses.
Yes. And once they get onto their backs, we say the same thing. And I've got words for that. Chin high to the sky, arms out like an airplane, legs together, pointed toes, still and quiet. Now, sometimes when you turn kids over...
Toesies too, you remember? Toesies.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. Yeah, once they get to where they're resting alone, I say, now I got to see those toesies. I got to see those toesies sticking up like that. And it's, I mean, you know, it's just marvelous. I feel very, very fortunate that God gave me this gift, because I love it.
Wow.
And I think that's part of the success. And any time a new skill comes to me, I call it a message from God. I've gotten up out of my bed at night, and I've woken up and I've thought of something, and I've gone out and pulled my night dress off and gotten in the pool to try these things.
Oh, to try it yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And I mean, I care that much about the kids, and wanting them to excel and get the skills as fast as possible. But I don't believe, and Brendan and Gareth don't either, believe in offering something that we think is too difficult for them.
Okay.
Now, they may think it's difficult.
Right.
I can do it. I will do it. I shall do it, you know.
And you prove to them they can do it.
Yes, yes.
By doing it
Right.
over and over.
And even when babies are crying, you know, you just give them hugs and kisses and you keep saying, one day, they're going to be happy. And they'll never believe you when you tell them, when they're older, in older classes, when you ask them, did you cry when you were a baby? No, I didn't cry. I never cried. And some of the loudest screamers, I always say, turn out to be the best swimmers.
The loudest screamers.
Yeah, it's tough. That part of the program at the start can be tough on some kids, but no, they get over it. Mommy and Daddy. I've had parents standing behind the fence crying. Have you? Yeah.
Because initially you're putting a child in a place that they're not comfortable, they
Right.
don't understand that there is some fear, and they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, especially if the parents have been silly enough to not allow their children to get their faces wet. I mean, I see commercials on TV where mommy gets in the pool and then the little girl's got her water wings on and she has her jump to her, and every time it comes on, I say to Peter, watch out, her head might go under the water. See, I don't believe in that. You have to make them do it to face it, and then they'll find out. Then this is
so bad after all.
No, it's so funny. Like about the second day, they'll say, I'm having fun, Miss Carolyn. You know, it's amazing. It's really, now some kids take a little bit longer, sure. I have a friend whose son took for 2 years, I believe, and
2
cried, but
years.
but he wasn't in pain. He just didn't want to do it.
Right.
Well, he's marvelous now.
And probably that's not even a memory, not wanting to do it.
Probably not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Wow. And then what experience have you had, because you were raised being a swimmer by your mom, and then you've taken those same tools that you were raised with, and you also have your practice at your place, and you have your place, and then your brother also has his practice.
Yeah.
So this has definitely been a family affair. And then we're going to have a second show, and then there's a third generation, your kids that are swimmers and comfortable in the water. You know, it's just progressive.
And my brother's kids too.
Yeah,
They teach too. They're fabulous teachers.
Yes, they're fabulous teachers.
Okay.
They have it.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But see, that's how Gareth and Brendan got it.
Yeah.
That's how I came to the conclusion 1,000 years ago that it's marvelous to have assistants in the pool instead of having private lessons with just one teacher. And I'll tell you, I found out because I used to take my boys with me. And then Brendan would say, well, why don't you let him swim to me? And Gareth would say, oh, yes. So we would do a triangle. And I'm thinking, you know, God put that message up. And that's how, I mean, they were raised on swimming.
Right. And they were helping you teach them.
Right. And then they got better than me.
Aha. They got better. Wow. So what are your thoughts on what you're hearing your mom say?
I think that the very first person in anything that comes up that takes an internal from the heart idea and manifests it in this world
Mm-hmm.
is the true, as Maori say, rangatira, the true chief, because they actually embodied the message from God. And in that case, that's my mama here.
She's the conduit.
She's the conduit, but as roots on a tree go down, they go out and they go deeper and they create more.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates more understanding and more depth and more foundation. And that's what she's given to us because we were young and we were malleable. We didn't have someone say, oh, this is not right. We didn't have to re-pattern anything in our being in order to be able to emulate straight from the master to the children. And that's what we're trying to give to our children. That connection, to be intuitive, to be able to work with. See, every child is the same, beautiful beings, but also see every child different because they have different personalities and have the wisdom and the psychology, internal psychology, not written in a book, to be able to work with each one of them to get them to where you see they can be. Because we see the light in every one of them and the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, yes.
And we are that beacon for our parents who we speak to for 8 hours on the very first day.
Wow.
Through to the kids to know that they have the ability to do it. Even when the parents don't believe it's going to happen. We have, and it's through love, it's through tough love, it's through intention, it's through knowing when to let a child sit on the side of the pool and when to actually work with the vision that you see for them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes good sense.
Yeah. So we are all conduits, and our teachers are conduits of that, and we try to keep that energy. That's why, when you have a lot of, at times maybe kids around crying, nothing's wrong with them. They just don't want to be there. It's temporary. It's temporary. When you have a lot of those kids around crying, to be able to transmute that energy, we have a jovial nature. You have to have a jovial nature. We'll change their names. We'll come up to them like several months ago. I was working with my son and my daughter, and there were children crying on the side of the pool, 4 of them, all 2 years old. And I said, Rangi, go and talk to him. Get him to stop crying. And he went over and he did what he could for being 13 years old. And I commended him. And then Maya tried it. And they each had their own style, which we have to, as a teacher, to help our teachers to be. But I said, watch this. And I said, I want all 4 of you to look at me. I do not want you to cry. I love each and every one of you. And I know that you have it in you to be able to do this. And they go, and then they stop crying for a second. And they realization, boom, conduit realization. And then they start crying again. And then I say, do you see this sucker? I said, I'm going to put the sucker on all 4 of your heads, one at a time. We're starting right here. These are 2-year-olds. And you put the sucker on top of their head. And then I say, you have got to balance that sucker. So they're crying. And when they balance that sucker on their head, they can't do both at the same time. And they know that I want them to hold that sucker on their head, so they stop crying. What you've done in that process is not an easy thing because it may take many different chances. You have to, many different pathways, and you have to know which one to take. But at the end of the day, what you have is you have a child that has broken through a barrier to be able to go to another level. The next day they come in, they won't cry as much. And next day, they'll be more jovial, and they'll definitely know that we love them.
Yes. And then you are from New Zealand,
Yes.
and your late husband is from New Zealand, and then you spent time in New Zealand. So there's a little background of I don't know. I think of a spiritual part, and you mentioned Maori.
The Maoris.
Maori, and there's a family and a generational thing that has been brought up, and organically you figured this out somehow or other, just with your own kids, and because of that you attracted people who wanted you to teach, and then because of that he learned it and his brother, and it's an amazing process. Now I want everybody to know how, if they're watching this and they want, wow, I want my kids to learn how to do this and to save themselves in a pool and to at a young age. Do you have a website that we need to know about, or how can they find this out?
You can just Google Brendan Sweetman and swim lessons.
Just Sweetman Swimming.
Sweetman Swimming.
Just put in Google, just say swimming lessons, Sweetmans. That's all you have to do.
And all three of us will come
and
up.
it'll, just like that.
All three of you in the Nashville area.
Yes.
And it's pretty much only during the summertime, am I correct?
No, Brendan.
We do maintenance in the winter as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
maintenance in the
Since
winter.
I retired.
Quote,
I
retired.
Yeah,
He hasn't retired.
I don't do maintenance anymore, but I send my students to him in the wintertime because Garrett's too far away. And they do maintenance, which is, they only come 3 times in the fall and 2 in the spring when it's getting close to swimming. And it's just enough to stop them from forgetting, especially the very young ones.
Right.
And those are very important lessons.
Wow. Well, our audience will see on our credits how they can get in touch with you all. And this has been very instructional, and we have some video that's going to be shown of actually you doing this in the pool, because I understand there's a documentary that's going to be made.
Yeah.
And then on our second show, we'll be talking to a parent or two on how do they react to their child in this wonderful learning position. And I think it's just an amazing process that you put children through to learn how to swim, and it carries over into their lives.
Oh, definitely.
And we're just about ready to close. I want to thank you both, the Sweetmans, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Thank you. All right, there you go. Told you it would go like that. Yeah, that wasn't so
That was
hard.
really good,
was it?
Becky.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, there's so many aspects of